2 out of 3 isn't too bad. Welcome to Far Cry 6 in 4K across Google Stadia, Shadow PC and GeForce NOW. As you can see, we've got Google Stadia on the left with the Chromecast Ultra in 4K thanks to Google Stadia Pro. In the centre we have Shadow PC running at 1440p via the Shadow PC app on Android TV. And on the right we have GeForce NOW running on the Shield TV Pro using AI upscaling through the Nvidia Games app. You can see there is a slight difference in the time of day here and weather effects, which does play into some of the brightness and contrast changes. However, we can see very clearly that Google Stadia is much more vibrant in its colours and contrast. And as we come to the cutscene here, this is really obvious. Shadow PC is also running the HD textures as it's running the PC version, but actually looks more washed out here. And although the detail does look greater on the character model, on both GeForce NOW and Shadow PC here, the warmness of the Chromecast Ultra really does shine through, and when you're sat 2 meters away from your TV, you really don't see that difference that greatly. As we look at Google Stadia full screen then in some gunplay, this was the most responsive out of all 3 for me, and you can tell by the shots that I'm taking and how rapid they are hitting that this was the smoothest experience out of all 3. Graphics wise, it's still on point. It's not as sharp as some of the others, but it's more than good enough, and the colours for the background here and the display is just absolutely fantastic. As we go to Shadow PC, again the time of day doesn't help here, but you do see a huge bump in the graphics quality. However, that is at the detriment of the twitch movements. You'll see here that I regularly move the controller and miss my target. Just seems to be that it was slower to respond, so it wasn't that snap movement that I was getting on the Google Stadia version with the Stadia controller. I was using a Series X Bluetooth controller here, and that might attribute to a bit of the processing for Shadow, but the quality definitely does look a bit better. As we move to GeForce NOW though, we see that we don't quite have the quality of the Shadow PC version, and we see a little bit of the sharpening effects here. Input for the controller though did feel a lot smoother than it did on Shadow PC, and it wasn't as jerky moving around, which definitely felt a lot more responsive, closer to the Stadia version. Now for some interesting differences, if we look at the compound here, look at the smoke effects here. It's much more vibrant on the Google Stadia version, although it is a slight different time of day. And even with the HD textures, there's something weird going on with the smoke on the Shadow PC until we get it a bit closer. However, the trees do look absolutely remarkable with those HD textures on Shadow PC. But as I said, that kind of jerkiness on the frame rate, and you see the frame rate on Shadow dropping down into the 30s and 40s quite regularly, was a little bit too much. So GeForce NOW is running the PC version but without the HD textures, and I think that it does actually look a little bit better without the HD pack on PC. So if you are going to play via one of those, then do bear that in mind. Going back to Stadia at full screen, once again you see just how quick those snap movements are. The Stadia controller and the Chromecast really is a fantastic way to play this. The 30 frames per second cap really doesn't feel that noticeable when you're actually playing Stadia for more than a few minutes. You do notice as you switch over if you're playing a different system or one of the 60 frames per second, but to be honest, the quality of the Stadia image here and the smoothness of the controller really does make you forget that quite quickly. So if you are playing on the Chromecast Ultra, Stadia is an absolutely fantastic way to play Far Cry 6, especially with that Ubisoft Plus. As we come back to Shadow, we see some of those weird effects on the HD pack, and we can see some pixelation as we're moving around. So I think Shadow PC was struggling a little bit to keep up with the fast-paced movement and getting those big frame dips down around some of this, and seeing just how much more washed out the colour is compared to Google Stadia was a bit of a shame here. I expected Shadow PC to be doing a bit better here. Those smoke effects really are a bit questionable. So the most expensive option is not always the best option. Looking at GeForce NOW, this was a fantastic middle ground for me. If you are looking for that 60 frames per second experience with Far Cry 6 though, GeForce NOW is an absolutely fantastic way to do this, but you will need a Shield TV or Shield TV Pro. Shield TV Pro is required for the 60 frames per second 4K upscaling. However, the Shield TV will upscale your TV from 1080 just by running the app. So it is a great option, but then there is the huge price difference between the Shield TV and Chromecast Ultra. Let us know in the comments below what you think of the differences here between Shadow PC, GeForce NOW and Google Stadia. As we come back side by side then to finish and wrap up, if you have the Chromecast Ultra or Google TV already, then Google Stadia is an absolutely fantastic way to play Far Cry 6. Yes, it's capped at 30 frames per second, but believe me, if you're sat more than a meter away from your TV, you're not going to notice a huge difference in the quality drop, but you will notice a huge difference of the coloration and vibrancy. Just look at the water and trees as we look over the background here. Stadia, when I was on the TV, was just by far the best looking. If you are going to be playing on a TV as your main place to play, then Stadia is definitely the best place here. If 60 frames per second is a must for you, then GeForce NOW is definitely the next best option. Shadow PC is great, but I did have a few issues and the load times on Shadow PC were absolutely crazy. It took nearly 5 minutes to get from boot up to actually start gameplay. GeForce NOW was only a couple of minutes, but Stadia is still just ahead. If you're playing on PC though, I would probably go for GeForce NOW over Stadia, just because of that 60 frames per second and being closer to your screen to see that quality. But again, if you are going to use a PC monitor and sit a bit further away from your computer, then Stadia will still be a fantastic way to play. Let us know in the comments below if you are going to be playing Far Cry 6 and where you're going to play. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, stay up to date with all things cloud gaming, and we will see you next time.